The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives filled the massive hall, their varied forms illuminated by the soft blue glow of floating holoscreens. At the center of attention stood Lord Rex, the Council's head of First Contact Affairs, his tall, slender form draped in ceremonial robes. Esteemed members of the Council, Lord Rex's voice echoed through the chamber. Today we discuss a matter of significant interest. Our deep space monitors have detected a new spacefaring species in Sector 7, calling themselves humans. The chamber's main screen flickered to life, displaying images of Earth's space fleet. A wave of murmurs swept through the audience, quickly turning into barely contained laughter. Even Lord Rex's professional demeanor cracked as he fought back a smile. Yes, he continued, gesturing to the images. I understand your amusement. Their largest vessel appears to be merely 400 meters in length. He paused for effect. That's smaller than our standard cargo shuttles. The laughter grew louder. A massive reptilian delegate from the Meridian Empire stood up, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. Are we certain these are their warships? Perhaps they're showing us their mining vessels by mistake. No mistake, Ambassador, Lord Rex replied, switching to another image. This is their flagship, which they rather ambitiously named Thunderchild. Our scans indicate it carries a crew of only 200 personnel. For comparison, our smallest military vessel requires a minimum crew of 2,000. The chamber erupted in open mockery. Some delegates were practically falling out of their seats with laughter. A holographic representative from the Silicon Collective sparked with amusement, their energy pattern fluctuating wildly. Shall we send them a welcome message? Lord Rex asked, regaining his composure. Perhaps suggest they wait another century or two before joining galactic society. Why not? The Meridian ambassador rumbled. Though they might need their parents' permission first. More laughter filled the chamber. Lord Rex nodded to his assistant, who began composing an official message to Earth's Fleet Command. Meanwhile, aboard the EDS Thunderchild, Admiral James Wilson sat in his command chair, reading the incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. His weathered face remained calm as his eyes moved across the screen. Behind him, the bridge crew worked efficiently at their stations, the soft hum of advanced technology filling the air. Captain Tom Reed, his second-in-command, watched the Admiral's expression carefully. Sir, what do they say? Admiral Wilson's lips curved into a slight smile. They're not impressed with our fleet, Tom. Apparently, we're too small to be taken seriously. He turned the screen so his captain could read it. Their smallest ships are 5 times our size. Tom noted, frowning at the message. They think we're primitive because of it. Do you know what I see in this message, Captain? Wilson asked, his blue eyes twinkling with amusement. I see an entire galactic civilization that hasn't figured out the basics of efficient design. He stood up and walked to the bridge's main viewport, looking out at the stars. They build massive ships because they can, not because they should. All that size. It's just more target area, more power needed, more crew required, more resources wasted. The Admiral turned to face his bridge crew, who had all stopped to listen. They mock our ships for being small, but they haven't figured out that humanity's greatest strength has always been doing more with less. We didn't reach the stars by building bigger ships. We got here by building better ones. He sat back down, pressing a button to archive the Council's message. Let them laugh. They'll learn soon enough why Earth's ships are the size they are. Sometimes the smallest dog has the sharpest teeth. Should we send a response, sir? Tom asked. Admiral Wilson nodded. Keep it simple, professional. Thank them for their welcome, and request coordinates for formal diplomatic contact. His smile widened slightly. No need to tell them that our tiny ships can outmaneuver anything they've got. They'll figure that out on their own. As the message was sent, Wilson couldn't help but chuckle. The Galactic Council had just made the oldest mistake in the book, judging capability by size alone. They'd learn their lessons soon enough, and humanity would be there to teach it. "Prepare the fleet for advanced maneuver demonstrations," he ordered. "Something tells me we'll need to make quite an impression when we meet our new galactic neighbors." The massive viewing deck of the Galactic Council's military station buzzed with activity. Alien observers from 20 different species gathered to watch the upcoming demonstration of Earth's fleet. Among them stood Lord Rex, trying to maintain his dignity despite the amused whispers around him. "Look how they just float there, like toys in space," one observer remarked, pointing at the human ships through the reinforced window. The Thunderchild and 5 other Earth vessels hung against the backdrop of stars, their polished hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. The demonstration began without warning. In an instant, the tiny human ships moved. Lord Rex's jaw dropped. The alien observers fell silent. The Thunderchild executed a complete 180-degree turn in less than 3 seconds. The other ships split into perfect formation, moving with precision that seemed impossible for their size. They weaved through space like dancers, changing direction instantly without the long, slow turns that larger ships required. "Impossible," the Meridian ambassador muttered. "Ships can't move like that. The crew would be crushed by the G-forces." As if hearing the challenge, the human ships demonstrated even more impressive maneuvers. They spun, rolled, and changed direction with incredible speed. 2 ships passed within meters of each other at full speed, a feat that would have torn larger vessels apart. Admiral Wilson's voice came through the station's communication system. "I hope you're enjoying the show. Would you like to see what these tiny ships can really do?" Without waiting for an answer, the Thunderchild accelerated to attack speed. The alien observers watched in shock as the ship's energy readings jumped off their scales. The small vessel moved faster than their largest engines could manage, while using only a fraction of the power. "How?" Lord Rex demanded. "Our scans show your engine room is barely the size of our backup generators." A deep chuckle came through the speakers. "Size isn't everything, Lord Rex. Humanity learned that lesson centuries ago. Would you like me to explain?" The main screen activated, showing detailed schematics of the Thunderchild. Admiral Wilson's voice continued. "Every cubic meter of our ship serves a purpose. No space wasted, no energy lost. While your massive ships need huge crews just to maintain basic functions, our automated systems let us operate with minimal personnel." The display showed the ship's interior. Unlike the cavernous halls of alien vessels, the human ship was a marvel of efficient design. Compact corridors, multi-purpose rooms, and densely packed technology filled every available space. "But the real advantage," Wilson explained, "is our inertial dampening system. Your ships use brute force to counter G-forces, requiring enormous power plants and endless corridors of equipment. We developed a way to do it with a system smaller than your standard shuttle." The alien observers watched as the Thunderchild demonstrated its dampening technology. The ship pulled maneuvers that would have turned any other crew to paste, yet the energy readings stayed remarkably low. "Efficiency," Wilson said simply. "That's humanity's greatest weapon. We don't build big ships because we don't need to. Every system, every component, every circuit has been refined to perfection." Lord Rex stared at the human ships with new respect. "And your weapons? Would you like a demonstration?" Before Lord Rex could answer, the Thunderchild fired a single shot at a designated target drone. The beam was thin, precise, and devastatingly powerful. It pierced the drone's shields like they weren't there. "Traditional thinking says bigger weapons need bigger ships," Wilson explained. "We found a better way. Our targeting systems are precise enough to hit weak points the size of a coin. Why waste energy on massive weapon banks when one well-placed shot does the job?" The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the Earth ships continued their dance through space. Their previous mockery felt foolish now. These weren't primitive vessels built by an inexperienced race. They were the product of ruthless efficiency and advanced engineering. "Remember," Wilson's voice carried a hint of warning, Sometimes the smallest predator is the most dangerous. Not because of its size, but because it had to become smarter, faster, and more efficient to survive. The demonstration ended, but its impact would last forever. As the human ships formed up to depart, Lord Rex turned to his fellow observers. "I suggest," he said quietly, "that we revise our initial assessment of humanity's capabilities." Nobody laughed this time. They were too busy watching the tiny ships disappear into the darkness of space, each one carrying enough firepower to match their largest battlecruisers. The age of massive ships might be coming to an end. The era of human efficiency had begun. The Meridian Empire's war room was a sight to behold. General Max, the commander of their largest battle fleet, stomped around the massive holographic display. His scaled face twisted in anger as he reviewed the footage of the human ship's demonstration for the 100th time. "This is unacceptable," he roared, slamming his fist on the table. "These humans make us look like slow, clumsy giants. The Empire's reputation is at stake." The Emperor's advisor, Lord Black, watched from his seat with cold eyes. "Then perhaps it's time we taught these humans their proper place in the galaxy." The decision was made quickly. Within hours, 50 of the Empire's most powerful warships gathered near the human border. Each ship was over 3 kilometers long, their dark hulls covered in heavy armor and massive weapon arrays. They looked like mountains floating in space, dwarfing everything around them. General Max stood proudly on his command bridge. "Send the message to their pathetic fleet. Let's see how brave they are when faced with real warships." The message was simple: surrender your space to the Meridian Empire, or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. On board the Thunderchild, Admiral Wilson read the threat with a calm expression. His bridge crew waited silently for his response. "Sir," Captain Tom reported, "long-range scanners show 50 Meridian warships. Their smallest vessel is 8 times our size." Wilson nodded, then pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." He turned to his weapons officer. "How many ships do we have available?" 20 ships, sir. That's all we could gather on short notice." "More than enough," Wilson said with a slight smile. He opened a channel to all human vessels. "Remember your training. They may be bigger, but size means nothing if you can't hit your target. Formation Delta. Let's show them why humans don't need giant ships to win battles." The human fleet moved into position. 20 small ships against 50 giants. From the Meridian perspective, it looked almost comical. General Max laughed when he saw the human formation. "Look at them. Like insects trying to fight dragons. Open a channel. I want to mock them one last time before we destroy them." The communication screen lit up, showing Admiral Wilson's calm face. "This is your last chance, human," Max sneered. "Your tiny fleet cannot hope to stand against the might of the Meridian Empire. Surrender now, and we might let some of you live as our servants." Wilson's response was unexpected. He smiled. "General," he said politely, "you seem to be operating under several misconceptions. First, you assume that size equals strength. Second, you think we're afraid. And third," his smile grew slightly wider, "you believe we came here to fight fair." He cut the communication before Max could respond. The Meridian Empire's massive ships began charging their weapons. Their huge cannons glowed with power, preparing to unleash destruction on the human fleet. "Sir," Tom reported to Wilson, "they're powering up their main guns. Time to impact after firing will be approximately 30 seconds. "Plenty of time," Wilson replied. "All ships, execute maneuver plan Wasp's Nest. Let's show them why humanity chose to build small, fast ships." The human fleet suddenly burst into action. Instead of staying in their neat formation, the ships scattered in what looked like panic to the Meridians. "Pathetic," General Max laughed. "They run like cowards." All ships, open fire. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams from the Meridian warships. Each blast could have vaporized a small moon. But when the light faded, not a single human ship had been hit. Impossible, Max roared. Where are they? The answer came immediately. The human ships had used the Meridian's own massive size against them. While the giant ships were busy firing their huge, slow weapons, the human vessels had slipped into their blind spots. Admiral Wilson's voice crackled through the Meridian command channel. You wanted to know why we build small ships, General. You're about to find out. All ships, show them what humanity's tiny fleet can do. The real battle was about to begin. And size, as the Meridians were about to learn, wasn't going to help them at all. Chaos erupted in space as the battle began in earnest. The Meridian fleet's massive weapons lit up the darkness, but their targets were already gone. The human ships moved like lightning, darting between the energy beams with impossible precision. On the bridge of his flagship, General Max watched in growing frustration as another barrage missed completely. How are they moving so fast? Nothing can accelerate like that. Sir, his sensor officer shouted, the human ships are executing maneuvers that should be impossible. Their hulls should be tearing apart under those G-forces. The Thunderchild led the human fleet in what looked like a complex dance, where Meridian ships needed kilometers to turn. The human vessels spun on their axis in seconds. They moved in 3 dimensions with perfect control, using their small size to maximum advantage. Admiral Wilson's voice remained calm as he directed his fleet. Groups 1 and 2, target their sensor arrays. Groups 3 and 4, prepare for strike runs on their engines. Remember your training. They can't hit what they can't track. The human ships split into smaller groups. Each vessel moved independently, but coordinated perfectly with its teammates. They weaved through the massive Meridian formation, finding gaps and blind spots that wouldn't exist for larger ships. Sir, Tom reported from his station on the Thunderchild. Meridian vessels are having trouble tracking us. Their targeting systems are designed for capital ship combat. They can't lock onto anything our size moving this fast. Wilson nodded, exactly as expected. Time to show them why being big isn't always better. All ships, execute attack pattern Hornet. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics. Instead of evading, they began darting close to the Meridian vessels. Incredibly close, so close that the massive ship's weapons couldn't track them. On his flagship, General Max watched in horror as a human ship flew within meters of his bridge viewport. The small vessel was so close he could see individual hull plates. His gunners couldn't fire. At that range, they'd risk hitting their own ships. Impossible, he roared. No pilot could maintain control at those speeds. But the humans could. Their smaller ships, combined with advanced inertial dampeners and automated systems, allowed them to perform maneuvers that the massive Meridian ships could only dream of. Target their weapon hardpoints, Wilson commanded. Show them why precision beats power. The human ships opened fire. Their weapons weren't as powerful as the Meridian's city-sized cannons, but they didn't need to be. Each shot was perfectly aimed at crucial weak points: cooling vents, sensor arrays, weapon control nodes. A Meridian captain watched in disbelief as a human ship, barely larger than his vessel's main gun, executed a perfect roll between 2 energy beams. The small ship fired a single shot directly into his primary weapon's cooling system. Alarms blared as the massive cannon began to overheat. They're not fighting fair, the captain complained over the fleet channel. No, General Max growled. They're fighting smart. The battle continued to unfold like a deadly dance. The huge Meridian ships, designed to trade broadsides with other massive vessels, couldn't handle the swift, precise attacks of the human fleet. Their weapons were powerful but useless if they couldn't hit their targets. Wilson watched from the Thunderchild's bridge as his plan worked perfectly. This is why we build small ships, he explained to his crew. Every extra meter of size is just more space for the enemy to hit. Every ton of unnecessary mass is power that could be used for engines or weapons. The Meridian fleet tried to regroup, forming a defensive circle with their ships facing outward. It was a textbook maneuver for capital ship combat. Against the human fleet, it was useless. "Look at them," Wilson said, almost pitying. "Still thinking like big ship commanders. Tom, signal the fleet. Time for Phase 2. The human ships regrouped with precision that made their previous maneuvers look clumsy. They formed up into attack squadrons, each group targeting specific weaknesses in the Meridian formation. "Let's finish this lesson," Wilson announced to his fleet. "Show them why humanity chose the path of efficiency over size. All ships, execute attack pattern striker." As his ships moved in for their coordinated strike, Wilson allowed himself a small smile. The Meridians were about to learn that in space combat, just like in nature, it wasn't the biggest predator that survived. It was the smartest. The Meridian defensive circle was breaking apart. Human ships darted between their massive vessels like angry wasps, striking with surgical precision. Each hit wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to disable. "Status report," General Max demanded, watching another of his ships lose power to its main guns. "Sir, we've lost weapons on 12 ships, engines on 8 more," his officer reported, voice shaking. "The humans, they're not trying to destroy us. They're taking us apart piece by piece." On the Thunderchild, Admiral Wilson directed the battle with calm efficiency. "Group 2, target their communication arrays. Group 3, disable their secondary power systems. Let's show them our real tactics." The human fleet suddenly split into smaller groups of 3 ships each. They moved in perfect sync, like they were connected by invisible strings. Where one ship drew enemy fire, another would slip in to strike at exposed systems. "Sir," Tom reported from his station, "the Meridians are trying to predict our attack patterns." Wilson smiled. "Let them try. You can't predict what you don't understand. All ships, initiate the Hornet's Nest protocol." What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The human ships began exploiting every weakness in the massive Meridian vessels. They found blind spots in sensor coverage, gaps in weapon fields, and places where the giant ships couldn't fire without risking their allies. "Look at that design," Wilson commented, as the Thunderchild slipped past another Meridian broadside. "All that space wasted on ceremonial architecture. Those fancy spires, perfect hiding spots for our ships. Those dramatic weapon towers, can't fire straight down." A Meridian captain watched in horror as 3 human ships used his own vessel's decorative hull extensions as cover, darting between the massive ornamental structures while picking apart his defense systems. "Stop hiding and fight properly," the captain shouted over the command channel. "We are fighting properly," Wilson replied calmly. "You built your ships to look impressive. We built ours to win." The battle transformed into a masterclass in tactical warfare. Human ships worked in groups, using complex maneuvers that would be impossible for larger vessels. They didn't just attack. They controlled the entire space around the Meridian fleet. "Sir," Tom called out, "they're trying to concentrate their fire in predicted movement lanes." "Exactly what we wanted," Wilson nodded. "All ships, show them why that won't work. Execute swift strike protocols." The human fleet's movement suddenly became even more unpredictable. Instead of following normal combat patterns, they used their superior maneuverability to defy conventional space combat tactics. One human ship cut its engines, spun in place, fired thrusters in 3 different directions, and ended up facing backwards while still moving forward, all in less than 2 seconds. The Meridian gunners, trained to lead their targets based on normal ship movements, missed completely. "Impossible." General Max slammed his fist on his command console. "No ship can move like that. No crew could survive those maneuvers." But they could, and they did. The human ships had been built around their advanced inertial dampening systems. Their crews felt nothing while their ships pulled maneuvers that would have turned the crew of a Meridian vessel to paste. "That's the problem with big ships," Wilson explained to his bridge crew as they watched another Meridian vessel lose power. "They have to follow the old rules of space combat. We don't. The Thunderchild demonstrated this by executing a perfect spiral around a Meridian battlecruiser, staying so close to the hull that none of the massive ship's weapons could track them. With each pass, they disabled another crucial system. Final phase, Wilson commanded. Show them why humanity chose efficiency over intimidation. The human fleet regrouped one last time, forming up into an attack pattern that looked chaotic to Meridian eyes, but was actually perfectly coordinated. Each ship knew its role. Each movement was planned. Each target was chosen with careful precision. General Max watched the approaching human ships with a mix of fear and dawning understanding. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Meridian Empire, was about to learn its final lesson about the true nature of space combat. Size, as humanity had learned long ago, meant nothing if you couldn't hit your target. And the humans never missed. The final phase of battle began with surgical precision. The human fleet moved as one, their small ships weaving through the massive Meridian formation like threads through a tapestry. But this was no artistic display. It was the execution of a carefully planned strategy. All power systems targeted and marked. Tom reported from the Thunderchild's bridge. Ready for synchronized strike. Admiral Wilson nodded. Send the command. Let's end this. 20 human ships fired at exactly the same moment. Each shot struck a different Meridian vessel in precisely the same spot. Their main power distribution nodes, systems across the massive ships, began shutting down one by one. General Max watched in horror as his mighty fleet went dark. Emergency power. Get our weapons back online. Impossible, sir, his engineer reported. They didn't just hit our power systems. They knew exactly where to strike to cause a cascade failure. These humans, they studied our ship designs before the battle. Wilson's voice came through their emergency channels. Of course we did. That's another advantage of being small. We had plenty of time to scan your ships while you were busy laughing at our size. The Thunderchild led another attack run, this time targeting the Meridian fleet's backup systems. The human ships moved with even greater confidence now, knowing their enemies were crippled. Look at those hull designs, Wilson commented to his crew as they passed close to a Meridian battleship. All that armor, all that power, all those weapons, and none of it matters because they can't bring them to bear on a target our size. A Meridian captain watched helplessly as 3 human ships systematically disabled his vessel's remaining functional systems. Their attacks weren't random. Each shot took out specific components in a specific order, leaving his massive ship floating helplessly in space. This is humiliating, the captain shouted over the fleet channel. We're being taken apart by ships the size of our shuttles. No, General Max replied grimly. We're being taught a lesson. The human fleet continued their assault, but there was something different about their attacks now. They weren't just winning. They were demonstrating. Each strike showed a different weakness in the Meridian ship design. Each maneuver highlighted the advantages of their smaller size. Sir, Tom reported to Wilson, the Meridian fleet is completely combat ineffective. 15 ships have lost all power. 20 are running on emergency systems only, and the rest can barely maintain life support. Wilson opened a channel to the Meridian flagship. General Max, your fleet is disabled. Your weapons are offline. Your engines are crippled. Do you wish to continue this demonstration? On his darkened bridge, lit only by emergency lights, Max stared at the small human ships darting between his mighty vessels. His fleet, the pride of the Meridian Empire, had been defeated without losing a single ship. The humans hadn't even tried to destroy them. They had simply shut them down. How? He asked simply. How did you do this? Because we had to, Wilson replied. Humanity couldn't match your resources or your industrial capacity. We couldn't build ships as big as yours, so we got creative. We built ships that could outmaneuver yours, weapons that could target weak points, crews trained to exploit every advantage. The Thunderchild moved past Max's viewport, its small size now seeming much more threatening than comical. We turned our weakness into strength, Wilson continued. You built huge ships because you could. We built small ships because we had to be better. Max looked at his defeated fleet, 50 of the largest warships in the galaxy, helpless against 20 human vessels. We surrender, he said quietly. The battle is yours. Wilson's reply was professional but firm. Reactor cores are stable on all your vessels. Life support will continue functioning. We'll send repair crews to restore basic power, but your weapons and engines will remain offline until you leave our space. Remember this day, General. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to be too small to hit. As the human fleet moved to secure their victory, Max watched them with new understanding. His people had laughed at the size of human ships, never realizing that their small size was their greatest advantage. The Meridian Empire had learned a costly lesson. In space combat, bigger didn't mean better. It just meant you were easier to hit. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Hundreds of representatives watched the battle recordings in complete silence. The footage showed the human fleet's perfect execution of their battle plan, taking apart ships many times their size with surgical precision. Lord Rex stood at the podium, his earlier amusement replaced by deep respect. We have called this emergency session to discuss what happened in the battle against the Meridian fleet. As you can see, our initial assessment of human capabilities was deeply flawed. The massive screen showed another clip, a human ship executing a perfect spiral around a Meridian battlecruiser, disabling its weapons while staying in its blind spots. No one laughed this time. Honored members of the Council, a new voice called out. Admiral Wilson walked into the chamber, his simple blue uniform standing out among the elaborate robes of the alien representatives. I believe you wanted an explanation of human ship design philosophy. All eyes turned to him. Even the floating energy beings of the Silicon Collective dimmed their glow to listen. Please proceed, Admiral, Lord Rex said, gesturing to the podium. We are most eager to understand. Wilson activated a holographic display showing the Thunder Child next to a Meridian battlecruiser. The size difference was shocking. The basic principle is simple, Wilson explained. Every cubic meter of space in a ship needs power, needs maintenance, needs crew. The bigger the ship, the more resources you waste just keeping it running. He highlighted the Meridian ship's massive corridors and ceremonial spaces. Your ships are built to impress. Ours are built to fight. The display changed to show the internal systems of a human vessel. We automated everything we could, minimized crew spaces, eliminated unnecessary corridors. Every system was designed to serve multiple purposes. A Meridian representative stood up. But surely larger ships can carry more powerful weapons. Wilson smiled. Power isn't about size. It's about efficiency. He showed footage of a human ship disabling a Meridian vessel with a single precise shot. Your weapons are designed to destroy everything in their path. Ours are designed to hit exactly what we aim at. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Centuries of shipbuilding doctrine were being challenged. But the G-forces, another representative started, are only a problem if you waste power fighting them. Wilson interrupted. He showed a diagram of the human inertial dampening system. We didn't try to overpower physics. We worked with it. Our ships can pull maneuvers that would tear your vessels apart because we understood that bigger isn't always better. Lord Rex studied the diagrams carefully. Your ships are not primitive at all, are they? They're the result of perfect efficiency. Necessity breeds innovation, Wilson replied. We couldn't match your resources, so we had to be smarter about using them. Every human ship is built with one goal: maximum effectiveness with minimum waste. The chamber was silent again as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity based on the size of their ships, never realizing that small size was a deliberate choice. We request, Lord Rex said formally, that humanity share their ship design principles with the Council. Your efficiency could revolutionize space travel across the galaxy. Wilson nodded. We're happy to share our basic designs, though I suspect you'll find them difficult to implement. He looked around the grand chamber with its wasted space and decorative architecture. Your civilization has grown used to showing power through size. It will take time to learn that true strength often comes in smaller packages. As if to emphasize his point, another battle recording played, showing the moment when 20 tiny human ships defeated 50 of the galaxy's largest warships without destroying a single one. Remember this lesson, Wilson concluded. The deadliest predator isn't always the biggest. Sometimes it's the one that learned to be smarter, faster, and more efficient than its rivals. As Wilson left the chamber, the alien representatives began urgent discussions about modifying their ship designs. The age of massive warships was ending. A new era of human-inspired efficiency was beginning. On his way back to the Thunderchild, Wilson smiled to himself. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never judge a civilization by the size of its ships. Sometimes the smallest fleet could be the deadliest. The story of humanity's tiny fleet would be told across the galaxy for generations to come. Not as a joke, but as a reminder that true power comes from how well you use what you have, not how much you have to use.